Any day now, they say, some form of bacterial or microbiological life will be discovered somewhere in our solar system. That is possible. But although it is possible, it is frankly increasingly improbable, because every effort to find even a trace of life outside of the Earth has so far turned up nothing. If there is life, it is very well hidden, and it is also, it would seem, rare. This is significant in itself, because it is contrary to many expectations that prevailed both among scientists and the general public over a long period of time. There was every expectation that life would be abundant beyond the Earth. It was assumed that on the Moon there would be Moon life, and on Venus, Venus life, and on Mars, Martian life, and so on. Our experience of terrestrial life suggests this. On Earth, life has adapted to every conceivable environment. There are thermophilic bacteria that live inside volcanoes. There are life forms adapted to the deepest ocean trenches, living in endless darkness under immense pressure. Surely life in some form would adapt to other environments in the solar system. When we first ventured into space, we sent dogs and monkeys. And when we sent astronauts, we quarantined them for weeks, because there was the concern outer space might host strange microorganisms. But the concerns were unfounded. Instead, we found, as far as we know, that space does not host strange space life or extraterrestrial disease organisms or the like. There is no space biology. Space is dead. And so too, we discovered, is the Moon. And not only is it currently dead, there is no sign it was anything but dead. No sign of life whatsoever. This is not what was widely expected, not least in the popular imagination. The question was not whether there was life on the Moon, but what sort of life. Intelligent life? Advanced life? It was the meat of science fiction and scientific speculation. It was only after space exploration began that we had to scale back our expectations drastically. Our hopes went from advanced civilizations down to bacteria. And it turned out there were no bacteria either, of any kind. Nothing. But that's not what we expected. For a long time, there was speculation about life on the Moon. It was a cultural theme long before Jules Verne. Space exploration has disabused us of the fantasy. There's no life on the Moon, neither Earth life nor Moon life. It's a wasteland. And Venus, that beautiful star in our skies, is a toxic wasteland. There are high hopes for Mars, but so far they've all been empty. And after that, you start searching in obscure nooks and crannies in remote frozen worlds, and the prospects, frankly, are not good, because now you're a long way from anything like terrestrial conditions. The plain fact is, life is not abundant. It is abundant on Earth, but not elsewhere in the solar system. So far, in fact, we found nothing. Some of the building blocks of organic life, but not a single cell of organic life itself. Not one cell anywhere. Again, if there is such a thing, it is well hidden and rare, not ubiquitous and abundant. The argument was always, of course life is abundant and ubiquitous on other worlds. Look around you. Why should the Earth be special? There'll be other forms of life everywhere, but that's not the case. Not in our neighbourhood, at least. Our neighbourhood is, to all appearances, dead. There's physics and chemistry out there, but no biology. If there is any life at all, it's not apparent and not abundant. And it's not that we haven't looked. We have been looking throughout my entire life, and for the last 40 years of it with some earnest. A prime objective of nearly all space exploration, manned or otherwise, has been to find life. And so far, nothing. Not even the signatures of life. No sign at all. The scientists are undeterred. Any day now, the latest probe, the next project, the new experiment, another few $1 billion. But that's been going on my entire life. My lifetime more or less coincides with the space age, escape velocity, the promise of venturing into space and finding non-earthly life forms has been entirely unfruitful. What we have found is that the solar system, our neighbourhood, is barren. The greater promise of encounters with advanced life, humanoid or intelligent life, has also been entirely unsuccessful. There's none on the Moon, none on Venus, nor on Mars, nowhere. Whereas up until the 1960s probably, there was some expectation another civilization might share the solar system with us. It proved not to be the case. Although even now, popular fantasy might still insist there are Martians, but their civilization is hidden below the surface of the planet or is invisible to us for some other reason. Other people will tell you the Earth was colonised by Mars before their world turned into a sun-scorched hellhole. All sorts of such stories can be heard. But no, there are no Martians, and there's no sign there ever were. Mars is as dead as the Moon. And worse, so far we have found zero evidence of any life, higher or lower, anywhere else in the universe beyond our solar system. The entire search for extraterrestrial life has found nothing to date. And again, it leads us to the quite unexpected conclusion that if there is higher life, it is not ubiquitous and abundant, but rare and well hidden. The gap between reality and expectation is what gave rise to the famous utterance of the Italian scientist Fermi when he asked, "Where is everyone?" This is the so-called Fermi paradox, which is only a paradox because reality doesn't match expectations. Fermi noted in the 1950s that although our technological civilization was pumping out radio signals and electronic heat and other signatures into space, all of which we could detect from long distances ourselves, the universe was clearly not overflowing with reciprocal phenomena. Where are the radio signals? Where are the obvious signs of technological civilizations? Ours is a noisy civilization. We can listen in to a vast number of stars across vast galaxies. Where are the other noisy civilizations like ours? So far, the silence has been deafening. There are many creative attempts to explain the Fermi paradox. A popular one is that there are lots of advanced civilizations out there, but they use an entirely different technology that we cannot detect. An unhappy explanation is that civilizations like ours are inherently self-destructive and so don't last long. They are rare and fleeting. But the question still remains, where is everyone? Because statistically, people will say, there must be other intelligent life in the universe. There are a quadrillion stars. It is inconceivable that life could only occur in one place. It's likely there are a huge number of advanced civilizations on planets throughout multiple galaxies. How could there not be? It is ridiculous to suggest otherwise. But is it? Let us just consider the numbers. We are really dealing with two unknowns, two imponderables. The number of suitable worlds in the universe and the chances of life arising out of chemical and physical processes. Let us suppose there are a quadrillion stars, a quadrillion potential star systems for life. But what if the probabilities of life arising out of chemical physical processes is in fact a quadrillion plus one. We don't quite know what circumstances produce organic life from inorganic processes, but we know they must be peculiar and very difficult to replicate. What chances they have of happening in any given environment are beyond calculating. Some suggest that processes of rapid heating, cooling may be necessary, and such situations are likely very rare in nature. What if the chances are exceedingly astronomically unlikely? The nature of probabilities is such that you quickly reach astronomical odds. And that is just to produce the single primeval living cell. Then it must survive and thrive through a long series of filters as its environment changes. What are the chances of a cell surviving and evolving despite various extinction events along the way to the level of human development? Perhaps cellular life happens often, but survives and evolves only rarely. Again, the statistical argument for a universe full of extraterrestrial life is not as plain as it seems. What are the probabilities of life and higher life? They could easily be greater than the number of habitable worlds in the observable universe. That is possible. We cannot calculate the odds from two imponderables. The empirical evidence, namely from our solar system, is that the circumstances for life cannot be very common at all. Life is rare, and it may even be so rare as to be confined to our particular planet. That is possible, but it's a very unpopular possibility. It is possible, statistically and otherwise, that life, as we know it, only occurred here on this planet. The words "as we know it" are the proviso, but it certainly narrows the search. When I say these things loud, the pushback from people is considerable. We want there to be life elsewhere. We have fantasized about it for a long time. It is a given fact in the popular mind, and even more so in the geek mind, in minds awash with science narratives. It's a given fact on television and in movies, in our media dream life. It is a fond wish founded in the so-called Copernican principle. It's an article of the modern revolt against religion. Religion and the church propose that man and his world are God-given and special and central and unique. A universe teeming with extraterrestrial life proves otherwise. It's an important conceit of atheist modernity. Some people will do cartwheels of logic and indulge in the most absurd science fiction scenarios before they will give up on that conceit, just as much as religious people cling to their worldview. But so far, despite our best efforts, we have come up empty-handed, and a universe teeming with extraterrestrial life is beginning to look like a mythology. There is the so-called wow signal, a single blip best explained as an artifact in the data, and nothing to get excited about. And wasn't there methane signals from some distant star? All of this is clutching at straws. The fact is, we found nothing. This is not to make the unwarranted assertion that there is nothing, but so far nothing. And we can say confidently that the Star Trek world of sociologists in space is never going to happen. There's no galactic empire who will send ambassadors to Earth the minute we become an interplanetary species. These are the adolescent fantasies of an immature technological society. And so too is the entire phenomenon of UFOs. But what about, people will say, all the sightings of flying saucers and strange objects that defy the laws of physics witnessed by credible observers? Don't we have reason to believe the universe is teeming with life, advanced life, because we have strong evidence that we are being visited by such life? What about this case or that case? Unexplained. And surely the government knows more than they're telling us. So goes the narrative. But consider this. We can't find the slightest evidence of even a microbe of life anywhere beyond the confines of our planet. But apparently advanced beings are coming here in super advanced vehicles, abducting people and doing flybys for reasons unknown. It seems there are no aliens in outer space because they're all visiting us here. This is plainly a mismatch. When we search for extraterrestrial life where it's supposed to be, out there in space, on other worlds, we find nothing. A vast nothingness. And yet, beginning around the 1940s, we have reports of such extraterrestrial beings coming here to Earth. They come here on a regular basis. Where is everyone? Asked Fermi. Well, according to some people, they're here among us. But why aren't they out where they belong? If an alien spaceship can come down and land in your backyard, why is the universe so empty, so silent, so lifeless? Any day now, they'll say. Any day now there'll be a breakthrough, and the aliens use time machines and matter transfer technology that is beyond our detection or our understanding. All of this falls foul of Occam's razor. There's no reason to resort to bizarre theories to explain a conundrum of one's own making. We try to explain why the facts don't fit our expectations, when the more reasonable conclusion is simply that, well, life is rare. Advanced life, humanoid life, is very rare, and may in fact be so rare that there is never any prospect of us encountering such life, and so we are, for all intents and purposes, alone. And you can make what you like of UFO sightings. And the Earth may not be the centre of astrogeography broadly considered, as per Copernicus, but it is nonetheless a blue pearl among a pile of rocks, and the only one we have and will ever have. Why is that such an uncomfortable thought? It's because those advanced alien civilizations are projections of ourselves, of what we think we are and where we are heading, and what all our technological wonders, the miracles of science, will deliver. People who have a big intellectual investment in the mystique of technology find the Fermi paradox unsettling. Alien civilizations are the telos of the progress narrative. We too will achieve technological miracles and will set forth to meet our destiny as intergalactic beings. When we turned our radio telescopes to Alpha Centauri and other local stars, we expected to meet our future, but there was nothing there. Life then may just as well be a purely terrestrial phenomenon. It is something that happened here in a unique combination of circumstances, and it need not have happened elsewhere. And if it did, it is so remote from us that we will never know, and vice versa. And that's just the reality of it. And everything else is a fantasy, the idle dreams of Prometheus. This is not an argument for God or creationism. I don't have God hiding up my sleeve here. I'm merely reporting the state of play. The search for extraterrestrial life that I have witnessed throughout my lifetime has come up with nothing, although this fact has hardly dented the popular imagination, which is still in the grip of science mythologies, and the scientists too press on with fantastical hype and pseudo-profundities regardless. Perhaps it'll take another 100 years of finding nothing before we settle down and say, well, here we are, alone, on this blue pearl, and perhaps we should look after it before we go whoring after other worlds. What if, in 100 years, the search is still fruitless? On the current evidence, that of my lifetime, I'm willing to wager that, bar a microbe or two, and possibly not even that, in the next 100 years we'll still find nothing. What we are searching for is more about us than it is about the universe. We try to explain our way around the plain facts. And whatever one makes of any particular UFO sighting, they are surely a symptom of the glamour of our technological revolution. If we took away our technological civilization, the UFOs would disappear from our skies. Yes, people will say, because then we would no longer be of any interest to the aliens. And you can see how circular that argument is. In any case, we should have a new appreciation of how life is ubiquitous on Earth, how Earth is utterly soaked in life, in biology, and what an extraordinary thing that is, and how our own destiny is inextricably linked to it, not in some artificial hellhole being baked by radiation on Mars, and not in some spaceship hurtling into the void with a message of peace to a galactic confederation that doesn't exist. All of those science fiction abstractions that beguile the modern imagination. We could instead take a new grasp on reality and face up to our predicament and our nature. We are creatures of the earth. Every part of us is made to be here. Do you know what it does to the human body to be dragged away from the earth and to spend any length of time in outer space? It might be a mission for robots. It's not a place for men. And this is not a Luddite perspective. It's a sober perspective. We should bring some sobriety into one of the most central arenas of modern delusion. I don't read science fiction or frequent science fiction movies, but I know many people who do. They like to tell me that science fiction writers are prescient and see the future. I'm not sure that they do. They craft mythologies. But the mythology of moon men and Martians and Starfleet and projections of the Pax Americana into the cosmic frontier was certainly astray. The evidence doesn't conform to a populated universe at all, and utopianism founded on that sort of perspective is disconnected from all reality. When will this narrative wear thin, and when will we realise that it's all a fantasy about a false future?